Thanksgiving. It's a time for food, family, friends, football, and famous graves. The smell of Mom and Dad's cooking in the air while we watch the Thanksgiving Day parade and recollect on all we're thankful for. It's also a time to remember the many folks throughout history who have cooked up the spirit of Thanksgiving. So while we wait for the little pop thing in the turkey to pop...
The little pop thing has a name. It's called a thermometer. Now can we all please say thermometer?
All right, Fraser. While we wait for the thermometer to pop, let's fill the time exploring the history of Thanksgiving through the cemeteries and remember some of the iconic Turkey Day moments in film and television across the decades. So sit back and loosen your belt while we serve up a hearty portion of Thanksgiving history and entertainment with extra gravy. Harvest festivals and days of thanks have been celebrated by most cultures around the world for millennia, including in the Americas, long before the Pilgrims ever arrived. Thanksgiving festivals were hosted on this continent by colonists as early as the 1500s and by natives for centuries before that. Here in America, our modern Thanksgiving has become associated with the story of the arrival of the Pilgrims on the Mayflower in 1620, and their first harvest feast in 1621, shared with the local indigenous people, the Wampanoag. In the fall of 1620, a group of English separatists and others set sail on the Mayflower from England, seeking prosperity and freedom in the new promised land. When the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, in modern-day Massachusetts, they did not arrive in unoccupied land. It was the land of the native Wampanoag people. This is the fabled Plymouth Rock, a symbolic boulder which marks the site believed to be where the Pilgrims disembarked. When the Pilgrims arrived, they were surprised to learn that, through earlier settlers, some of the indigenous people here spoke English, being first welcomed by a man named Samoset who proclaimed, "Welcome, Englishmen." They would eventually form an alliance, the natives aiding the Pilgrims by sharing knowledge of hunting and planting, aid that would save the Pilgrims from starvation. But the Pilgrims would suffer many losses that harsh first winter. Nearby is Coles Hill Burial Ground, the first cemetery used by the Mayflower Pilgrims. Here is where many of the Pilgrims who didn't survive that first year were buried, including John Carver, author of the Mayflower Compact, the first governor of Plymouth Colony, and leading figure in the alliance with the Native Americans. These early casualties were quietly buried in a mass grave to hide from the natives how many they had lost. After John Carver's death, William Bradford became the colony's governor. He was also one of the Mayflower Pilgrims and signatory of the Mayflower Compact. Bradford wrote of the bountiful 1621 harvest, and while he gave no specifics about the festival event that would later be called the First Thanksgiving, records indicate that it was William Bradford who called for the celebration. Bradford is buried in the cemetery that the Pilgrims established in 1622, called Burial Hill. This cemetery is where many of the other Pilgrims are laid to rest, including John Howland, who famously fell off the Mayflower en route to the New World, but was quickly saved, being pulled back into the ship. Myles Standish is another familiar name from Thanksgiving folklore. He joined the Pilgrims on their journey across the Atlantic on the Mayflower, not as a separatist, but as a military officer and leader. Upon arrival in the New World, he was tasked with leading the local militia and training the colonists in matters of defense. He's buried here in the Standish burial grounds, said to be the oldest maintained cemetery in America. The cemetery was rediscovered in the 19th century, and efforts were later undertaken to try and locate the final resting place of Myles Standish. These graves, marked only by small pyramidal stones at the time with no names, were opened and remains exhumed, not once, but twice, to try to identify them. It was determined that this is where Standish and his family were buried, and this new grave monument, flanked by cannons, was created in 1893. Myles Standish would be exhumed a third time, if you can believe it, in 1931, when descendants opted to have his remains placed in a more secure vault rather than just a pine box. Two key figures from the Wampanoag people played a pivotal role in the alliance with and survival of the Pilgrims. Squantum, known as Squanto, was the last surviving member of the Patuxet tribe of the Wampanoag, a tribe decimated by an epidemic brought by European explorers and settlers. He was the liaison and interpreter between the Pilgrims and the natives. Squanto had learned to speak English from earlier settlers who had sold him into slavery, from which he managed to escape years later. When the Pilgrims landed in 1620, Squanto was sent by Wampanoag leaders to live with the Pilgrims as a guide, interpreter, and advisor, introducing them to the fur trade and teaching them how to fish, hunt, and sow and fertilize crops, specifically planting corn using fish as fertilizer. Without the guidance of Squanto and other natives, it's unlikely the Pilgrims would have survived. Squanto died in 1622. He was buried somewhere near the spot of this stone in Massachusetts. Squanto has been portrayed on film, including in Disney's Squanto, A Warrior's Tale. The chief of the Wampanoag was Massasoit Usamiquin. Leading up to the arrival of the Pilgrims in 1620, his people too had been seriously weakened by a plague brought by the European explorers and settlers. Massasoit believed that forming an alliance with the Pilgrims would be mutually beneficial and help reinforce his people. He sent Somerset to approach the colonists to see if they were peaceful, and noting that they had brought women and children, believed that they were. Massasoit forged personal ties with William Bradford, Myles Standish, and others, establishing a peace treaty. Like Squanto, Massasoit is credited for preventing the failure and starvation of the Plymouth colony, and remained close with them throughout his life. And he was present at the historic 1621 Harvest Festival with the Pilgrims. Though the peace he had brokered crumbled after his death when war broke out with the rapidly growing colonies, and the Wampanoag, along with other tribes, lost much of their land and independence through colonial expansion. As such, Thanksgiving is also considered a time of mournful remembrance for some indigenous peoples. After his death in 1661, Massasoit was laid to rest at Burrs Hill Pokanoket Royal Burial Ground in Rhode Island. Having survived their first year in the New World with the help of the natives, the colonists held a 3-day celebratory festival in the fall of 1621, after a successful harvest. Around 90 members of the Wampanoag tribe joined the around 50 surviving settlers for the event. Primary sources suggest the food would have consisted of fowl, deer, eel, and fish, with cornmeal, nuts, fruits, and vegetables. But the 1621 harvest celebration, though now erroneously called the first Thanksgiving, likely wasn't called Thanksgiving then, nor did it establish an annual Thanksgiving holiday, as we know it today. Much of the folklore of the, quote, first Thanksgiving was cultivated centuries later, melding fiction and fact, history and myth. Feasts of thanks continued to be celebrated in the colonies in the centuries that followed at various times throughout the year, motivated by everything from a successful harvest to victory in battle. The first National Thanksgiving Day was proclaimed by the first President of the United States, George Washington, to be held on Thursday, November 26, 1789. But this declaration of the first National Day of Thanksgiving was not connected in any way to the Pilgrims and Native Americans or the 1621 event, nor did it establish an annual holiday. It was just a one-off, to voice thanks in achieving independence and establishing a constitutional government. George Washington is entombed here on the grounds of his Mount Vernon estate in Virginia. The birth of the modern annual national Thanksgiving holiday in America came in the mid-19th century, introduced to try to heal a fracturing nation. To explore this history, we land in Laurel Hill Cemetery in Philadelphia. This is the grave of Sarah Josepha Hale, sometimes called the godmother of Thanksgiving. The writer and activist wrote for a magazine called Godey's Ladies' Book. Her work includes penning the nursery rhyme, Mary Had a Little Lamb. In the early 19th century, states independently celebrated days of thanks on varying dates, particularly in New England. Sarah felt strongly for the need of a unified national holiday of Thanksgiving. She started a letter-writing campaign for such, petitioning several presidents to establish a national holiday. Every November, she would dedicate her column in the magazine to her vision of the Thanksgiving holiday. She would even describe in her writings the recipes of such a holiday, including turkey with gravy and stuffing, pumpkin pies, cranberry sauce, ginger beer and cider, etc. Her early letters met with rejection until she was finally able to convince Abraham Lincoln to create a Thanksgiving holiday, as a unifying force in a nation being torn apart by civil war. Not long after the victory at Gettysburg in 1863, with victory in mind, Abraham Lincoln signed a proclamation for a National Thanksgiving Day, to be celebrated on the 26th of November that year. As with Washington's proclamation, this Thanksgiving still did not evoke the 1621 festival with the Pilgrims and Native Americans, but was rather both an expression of thanks for our great nation and also a supplication for its reunification and survival through the Civil War. He repeated the proclamation the following year, thus establishing the tradition for Thanksgiving Day to be celebrated nationally on the fourth Thursday in November. Lincoln is buried here at Oak Ridge Cemetery in Springfield, Illinois. This annual presidential Thanksgiving proclamation tradition continued until 1941. On December 26, 1941, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed a bill to officially and automatically mark the fourth Thursday of November as Thanksgiving, a federal holiday annually from that time forward. This followed his attempt to move Thanksgiving a week earlier, which had led to confusion. Roosevelt rests here alongside his wife Eleanor on the grounds of their historic site in New York. As for how our national Thanksgiving got interwoven with the story of the Pilgrims and Native Americans, that didn't happen until the late 19th, early 20th centuries. It was adopted as an origin story, so that Thanksgiving could commemorate a specific historical event and reflect on a time when differences were put aside to peacefully come together in shared gratitude. It was told through magazine articles, books, pageants, paintings, and school lessons, with plenty of myth and folklore added to the Thanksgiving recipe. Everything we really know about the 1621 Harvest Festival, the only first-hand account of what is now called the First Thanksgiving, is from a single paragraph written by a settler named Edward Winslow. What is Thanksgiving without food? And what food has become more symbolic of the holiday than turkey, and by extension, stuffing? In 1925, a baker named Sophie Cubbison started a company to sell bread and toast products. The company would become Mrs. Cubbison's Foods in 1948. The name might be familiar to you if you've ever used pre-packaged stuffing and dressing on Thanksgiving before. She launched her line of stuffing products in the 1950s, which became immensely popular and remains so to this day. Sophie died in 1982 at age 92, just days before Thanksgiving. She rests at Oak Hill Memorial Park in Escondido, California. Thanksgiving would also be the inspiration for the TV dinner. This brings us to Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Nebraska and the Swanson family plot. Swanson's is a food company founded by Carl Swanson in 1899. His son Gilbert ran the company after his father died. As the story goes, in 1953 the company was left with an excess of frozen turkey after Thanksgiving and the dilemma of what to do with it. Gilbert Swanson and a salesman named Jerry Thomas came up with the idea to slice up the turkey and place it into small aluminum trays like those used on airlines, with a few sides, and sell them as individually packaged frozen meals. They would brand the product the TV dinner. Thus, in 1953, the TV dinner was born, and it was a Thanksgiving meal. Having explored the history of Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving food as our main course, let's move on now to dessert. Thanksgiving in the arts and entertainment. We'll begin by taking a stroll through beautiful and historic Sleepy Hollow Cemetery in Massachusetts. Louisa May Alcott is best known as the author of Little Women, published in 1869 to wide acclaim and success. In the 1870s and 80s, she wrote a series of short stories compiled as Aunt Jo's Scrap Bag. One of the stories therein is called An Old-Fashioned Thanksgiving, which tells the story of a family in the early 1800s whose parents were called away on Thanksgiving. The eldest daughters decide to keep the tradition alive and finish preparing Thanksgiving dinner on their own, despite their inexperience. The parents later return home to find the feast prepared by their daughters. It was adapted as a film in 2008. Did you know that Over the River and Through the Woods is a Thanksgiving poem? It was written by Lydia Maria Child in 1844 and would later be set to music. It reads in part, "Over the river and through the wood to grandfather's house away. We would not stop for doll or top, for 'tis Thanksgiving Day. Over the river and through the wood now grandmother's cap I spy. Hurrah for the fun! Is the pudding done? Hurrah for the pumpkin pie." Lydia rests in North Cemetery in Wayland, Massachusetts. O. Henry was an author, best known for his contribution to the Christmas landscape with his short story The Gift of the Magi, first published in 1905. But O. Henry didn't forget about Thanksgiving. In a 1907 collection of short stories, he wrote one called Two Thanksgiving Day Gentlemen. It's a Thanksgiving story of generosity, tradition, and feeding the poor. O. Henry, whose real name was William Sidney Porter, rests here in Riverside Cemetery in Asheville, North Carolina. Truman Capote is famous for works like Breakfast at Tiffany's and the true crime novel In Cold Blood. But the author also showed his nostalgic side through sentimental holiday fare. He wrote the popular Christmas short story A Christmas Memory in 1956. He followed this up with The Thanksgiving Visitor, first published in 1967. It was adapted as a TV movie in 1968, starring Geraldine Page. The script is located at Westwood Village Memorial Park. A portion of Capote's ashes was once held by Joanne Carson, but they were sold at auction in 2016, so it's unclear if any of Capote's ashes are still here in this crypt, or if this is now just a cenotaph. When thinking of 20th century American Thanksgiving, one painting often springs to mind. Norman Rockwell was a painter who famously captured Americana on canvas. Among his American slice-of-life paintings is one called Freedom from Want. The painting was created in 1942, inspired by President Roosevelt's 1941 State of the Union address. Perhaps fittingly, that was the same year Roosevelt formally signed a bill making Thanksgiving an annual federal holiday. The painting was published in an issue of the Saturday Evening Post depicting a family sitting down to a Thanksgiving turkey dinner. All the people in the painting were friends and family of Rockwell. He rests in Stockbridge Cemetery in Massachusetts. Music always plays a big role in the holidays. Bing Crosby made his mark on Thanksgiving's neighboring holidays, narrating Disney's Sleepy Hollow animation for Halloween and singing White Christmas, the best-selling single of all time. Well, the legendary actor and crooner made a lesser-known contribution to Thanksgiving as well. Thanksgiving isn't particularly known for inspiring additions to the world's songbook, but the Irving Berlin penned song I've Got Plenty to Be Thankful For, which was featured in the film Holiday Inn, was sung by Bing Crosby and is a perfect track to embody the spirit of Thanksgiving.
I've got plenty to be thankful for.
Bing rests here at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California. Animated specials are a staple of the holiday season, and have been since the early days of animation. There's just something about the fun nostalgia that animation brings to the holidays, and that includes Thanksgiving. The Looney Tunes gave us Turkey Day laughs on more than one occasion, so let's revisit Hollywood Forever Cemetery and the very first famous grave I ever visited here in LA, that of the man of 1,000 voices, Mel Blanc. He voiced nearly all the Looney Tunes characters, including Porky Pig, Daffy Duck, and Bugs Bunny. Audiences in 1944 were served up the zany antics of Porky and Daffy on Thanksgiving in Tom, Turk, and Daffy.
Come on out of there, you old turkey, you! Come out around there, let me blast you! Those nasty, delicious yams!
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
So there you are, you old turkey. Turkey? Who's a turkey? Now wait a minute, Myles Standish. I'm a duck. Quack, 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 quack.
Years later, in 1979, another generation got their Thanksgiving laughs from Bugs Bunny in a clip show, Bugs Bunny's Thanksgiving Diet.
Any real gourmet knows you just don't serve rabbit at Thanksgiving. You serve wild turkey surprise. Wild turkey surprise? Too bad I'm all tied up or I'd cook you up a batch.
One of the giants of classic animation was a man named Tex Avery, which brings us to Forest Lawn in the Hollywood Hills. He's best known for his work at Warner Brothers, being instrumental in the co-creation and development of many of the studio's iconic characters, like Porky Pig and Bugs Bunny. His directional style and absurdist brand of humor would be heavily influential on that zany Looney Tunes style, and making the cartoons appealing to adults, not just children. After Warner's, Avery went to work for MGM. There in 1945, he directed and provided many of the voices for a Thanksgiving cartoon called Jerky Turkey.
Land ho! Hey, turkey!
Well, what do you know? Another customer.
Rankin Bass was an animation studio that cemented itself in the popular consciousness specifically with its holiday specials, with that distinctive stop-motion style. Like toys come to life, as Nightmare Before Christmas director Henry Selick once said, the Rankin Bass films having served as an inspiration for that film. Rankin Bass gave us Christmas classics which include Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Santa Claus is Coming to Town, as well as the traditionally animated Frosty the Snowman. But Rankin Bass didn't forget about Thanksgiving. In November 1968, they released the traditionally animated TV special, The Mouse on the Mayflower. Jules Bass teamed up with his friend Arthur Rankin in 1960 to form a company to make TV series and movies. Bass was a writer, director, producer, and also songwriter, penning lyrics for many of their songs. He lived to be 87, bringing joy to millions along the way. He rests here at Wellwood Cemetery in West Babylon, New York. To find his production partner, Arthur Rankin Jr., we must hop a plane down to Bermuda and Holy Trinity Cemetery. Arthur was an art director, designing the character concepts and co-directing their productions, including Mouse on the Mayflower. The works of Rankin Bass have become mainstays of the holiday season. Rankin called their style Animagic. He lived to be 89 and was laid to rest in this tomb in Bermuda. The Mouse on the Mayflower was the story of the Pilgrims' Mayflower crossing of the Atlantic through the viewpoint of a mouse named Willem. The story was narrated by actor and singer Tennessee Ernie Ford, who also voiced Willem Mouse.
Winds are blowing, yes, the Lord's a rowing, run the sails up to the sky.
Ford was also known for hit recordings of songs like 16 Tons. He rests here at Alta Mesa Memorial Park in Palo Alto, California. No list of animated holiday specials would be complete without the Peanuts, which brings us to Pleasant Hills Memorial Park in Sonoma County and the grave of Peanuts creator Charles Schulz. Based on his comic strip Peanuts, CBS began making holiday specials with the beloved characters in the 1960s, beginning with A Charlie Brown Christmas in 1965, and It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown in 1966. In 1973, they completed the holiday trilogy with A Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. Charles Schulz would write the scripts for these animations.
But Charlie Brown, it's Thanksgiving! Well, one of the greatest traditions we have is the Thanksgiving Day football game. This time I'm gonna kick that football clear to the moon!
All three of these holiday specials were directed and produced by legendary Mexican-American animator Bill Melendez. Bill was cremated, so he has no grave we can visit. The long-running animated series South Park has celebrated Thanksgiving several times, including in the episodes Helen Keller the Musical and A History Channel Thanksgiving. Their first Thanksgiving-flavored episode came in Season 1 in the episode Starvin' Marvin, in which the town is attacked by mutant turkeys. The voices of the female characters for the first 3 seasons of South Park were performed by the talented Mary Kay Bergman. Characters including Mrs. Cartman, Wendy, Mrs. Broflovsky, Principal Victoria, and the mayor.
Looks like we have the turkey problem under control. It's time to embrace the spirit of giving with the canned food grab. Happy Thanksgiving! Let her rip! Come on, grab those cans, little boy!
Sadly, Mary Kay took her own life in November 1999. The last episode she worked on was the sequel to Starvin' Marvin in Space, which aired just before Thanksgiving. It was dedicated to her memory. Mary rests here at Forest Lawn, Hollywood. A few of the South Park characters she voiced are featured here on her marker. And it will certainly come as no surprise to you that Mickey Mouse and his friends have celebrated Thanksgiving quite a few times over the years. Which brings us to Forest Lawn, Glendale. This is the grave of Wayne Allwine. The MM3 here on his grave means Mickey Mouse 3, i.e., he was the third person to voice Mickey Mouse after Walt Disney and Jimmy McDonald. He took over the role as Mickey in 1977 and would voice the beloved character until his death in 2009. In 2003, they made a Thanksgiving episode of House of Mouse called House of Turkey.
Why, it's great to see you again, pal. Gee, we're really thankful you chose to be with us on Thanksgiving.
No, it is I who must give thanks to you for allowing me to show the world I am more than a big fat bird who gets chased around once a year and goes gobble.
Did you know that Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse were married in real life? That is to say, the actor who voiced Mickey was married in real life to the actress who voiced Minnie, and she rests here beside him. This is the grave of Russi Taylor, a prolific voice actor whose many characters included Minnie Mouse, who she voiced from 1986 until her death in 2019.
Oh, sorry about them. I'll show you to your dressing room.
Dressing room, how droll.
If you need any basting or anything, you just give a gobble.
Ah, yes, quite amusing.
I don't know for sure, but I believe the MMF here on her marker means Minnie Mouse forever. Most of our favorite television shows have had memorable Thanksgiving episodes or scenes in them. After stuffing ourselves silly, let's plant ourselves now in front of the TV and try not to fall into a tryptophan-induced food coma while we remember some of the iconic Turkey Day moments in television history. Edgar Bergen was the entertainment world's first celebrity ventriloquist, ironic given that he rose to fame on the radio, where no one could actually see him and his puppets. But audiences would see Edgar, with Charlie McCarthy and Mortimer Snurd on film and television. Edgar and Charlie's television debut in their own show came in 1950, and would you believe it? It was a Thanksgiving special.
Thanksgiving, to me, is one of the most important holidays we have, because it's a day that we count our blessings. Thanksgiving was first celebrated by the Pilgrims many years ago. Of course, you boys remember reading about the Mayflower, John Alden, Myles Standish?
No, what did he do?
What did he do?
No, I asked you first.
Yeah.
After his death in 1978, Bergen was laid to rest here at Inglewood Memorial Park. In his will, he left $10,000 to his dummy Charlie. Many of the great early television shows started out as radio programs and were ported over to the new medium of television in the late 40s, early 50s. A popular example is the George Burns and Gracie Allen Show. A hit on the radio, it was made into one of the first television sitcoms. It starred real-life husband and wife comedy duo George Burns and Gracie Allen. George played the cigar-smoking straight man, alongside Gracie's dizzy dame character with a penchant for illogical logic. Their Thanksgiving special aired in November of 1951.
And I must tell you how Gracie cooks a turkey. You see, she and her mother is in San Francisco, they buy the same size turkey, then they put it in the oven at the same time. And when the turkey is done, her mother calls her long distance. We have 8 people for dinner. I hope we have enough turkey.
Yeah, we have.
Good. Was it expensive this year?
Well, Mr. Myles, the butcher, said that to buy the turkey dressed, it's 58 cents a pound, and not dressed, it's 52. Of course, it cost me more to buy it dressed, but I wouldn't go out in the other way.
Well, happy Thanksgiving.
Another popular series that began on the radio and was ported over to television was Our Miss Brooks, which starred Eve Arden as the title character. That brings us here to Westwood Village Memorial Park. Our Miss Brooks celebrated Thanksgiving in 1953. In it, Miss Brooks tries to put on a Thanksgiving dinner for friends with the tiniest bird in Turkey Day history.
Oh, of course. What'll it be, Mr. Conklin?
I'll have the drumstick, please.
All righty.
Where I are.
You asked for the drumstick, sir. There it is. You know, they say the nearer the bone, the sweeter the meat.
Even the Munsters got in on the Thanksgiving Day festivities. Herman Munster was played by Fred Gwynne, whose unmarked grave we find in the churchyard of Sandy Mount United Methodist Church in Maryland. In the 1964 episode Low Cal Munster, Herman goes on a diet at the worst time possible, during Thanksgiving.
You mean Thanksgiving with turkey and cranberry sauce? That kind of Thanksgiving?
Yeah, that's the kind with the dressing and the mashed potatoes and the gravy.
The dressing, the mashed potatoes, and the gravy.
And the homemade biscuits oozing with melted butter.
Homemade biscuits oozing with melted butter.
And don't forget the pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie.
Fred died in 1993 at age 66, and his grave here remains unmarked. We would love to see it marked one day. The Beverly Hillbillies was another of the great comedies in the 60s lineup. They celebrated Thanksgiving a few times during their 9-season run. Here in the mausoleum at Woodlawn in Santa Monica, we find the crypt of the actress who played Granny to perfection on the show, Irene Ryan. The feisty Granny appeared in all 274 episodes of the show.
Here, turkey, turkey. Here, turkey, turkey. Don't be scared. Granny don't mean no harm. See, I brought you some nice stuffing. I mean bread.
Their 1968 Thanksgiving episode, titled The Thanksgiving Spirit, was actually a Hooterville crossover with Petticoat Junction and Green Acres.
Hey, Granny, turkey's done. In fact, it's so tender this piece of white meat fell right off my hand.
Stay out of the kitchen, you turkey buzzard. Darned if you ain't as bad as Jethro.
So beloved was she for this role, it was engraved right here on her crypt. Starring alongside Irene as her granddaughter Ellie Mae was timeless Southern beauty Donna Douglas. A native of Louisiana, we find her grave here at Bluff Creek Community Cemetery. Ellie Mae was the tomboyish daughter of Jed Clampett. She has a soft spot in her heart for critters. So in the 1963 episode Turkey Day, when she finds the turkey that is meant for Thanksgiving dinner, whom she names Herman, she adopts him as a pet, saving him from the dinner table.
Get that bird out of here. And I don't want to see him in my kitchen until he's dressed and ready for the oven.
Well, that kind of talk gets him all scared. Herman and me sure like it, don't we, Herman?
Back at Woodlawn in Santa Monica, let's celebrate Thanksgiving with that girl, The 60s and 70s comedy starred Marlo Thomas and Ted Bessel. Here is the grave of Ted Bessel, who played Donald on the show, Anne Marie's love interest. For their Thanksgiving as a couple, they have to figure out whose parents to celebrate Thanksgiving with. A common conundrum, to be sure.
My parents want you to have Thanksgiving dinner with us.
My parents want you to have Thanksgiving dinner with us.
I asked you first.
Only because I was polite.
And you should politely accept my parents' invitation.
Yeah, well, I just thought you might like to see my parents for a change.
Ted was just 61 when he died from an aneurysm. Bewitched brought magic and witchcraft to television sets in the 60s and 70s. It starred Elizabeth Montgomery as Samantha, a modern-day witch married to an average mortal named Darren, first played by Dick York. The 1967 episode, Samantha's Thanksgiving to Remember, certainly was one to remember, finding the gang back in the 17th century.
What about our clothes? How will we ever explain our clothes?
Oh, well, don't worry, sweetheart. That I can handle.
Elizabeth Montgomery doesn't have a grave we can visit since she was cremated, but we can find the graves of a few of her co-stars in that Thanksgiving episode. The catalyst for the events of the Thanksgiving episode was the lovable but bumbling and forgetful Aunt Clara, played by Marion Lorne. That brings us to Ferncliff Mausoleum in New York, where her urn is laid to rest. Aunt Clara tells the family that she was at the very first Thanksgiving.
Now, Aunt Clara will tell you all about the first Thanksgiving. It was a blast. We ate for 3 days.
You were there?
Why, yes, of course.
She longs to visit her friends in Plymouth again, and in an attempt to cast a spell to send herself there, she accidentally takes the whole family with her to 17th century Plymouth, a place where witches aren't exactly welcome. We head now to Plainfield Cemetery in Michigan to find the actor who played Samantha's husband, Darren, on the show, Dick York. Dick played Darren for the first 5 seasons. In the Thanksgiving episode, the family is transported back to the first Thanksgiving. Darren is worried his witch wife will be in danger in this time period, but the able and confident Samantha is not worried. The tables turn when Darren himself, with his modern dialect and striking of a match, is accused of being a witch.
I'm so worried about you in the 17th century, I couldn't eat a thing.
Thou art very sweet.
Maybe I could force myself.
Dick died at age 63 after struggling many years with a debilitating spinal injury, which had caused him to leave the show in the 5th season, being replaced by Dick Sargent. Television's favorite blended family combined a mother and 3 girls with hair of gold, with a man named Brady and 3 boys of his own. They were the Brady Bunch, which ran from 1969 to 1974. The matriarch of the family, Carol Brady, was played by Florence Henderson, whose final resting place is here in the Fountain Garden area of Westwood Village Memorial Park. The Brady Bunch celebrated Thanksgiving in 1970 in the episode The Underground Movie, in which Greg decides to make a movie about the Pilgrims for a school project.
What's going on here?
Greg's writing a screenplay.
Greg is?
What do you think of that?
Well, no. No, I think the Indian chief should definitely say, I come in peace.
The patriarch of the family was Mike Brady, played by Robert Reed. To find his grave, we head to Memorial Park Cemetery in Skokie, Illinois. Greg gets frustrated with the project as the family members begin to take over and inject their own opinions on how the film should be made. But it all comes together well in the end when Mike reminds the family that it's Greg's film and he should call the shots.
Bobby, the Indians were friendly at first. They didn't start fighting until their land was taken away.
You mean the Pilgrims took away all the Indians' land?
That's right. Well, at first, they didn't take much of it.
Rounding out the adult cast on the Brady Bunch was a housekeeper named Alice, played by Emmy Award-winning actress Ann B. Davis. To find her grave, we head to the columbarium of St. Helena's Church in Boerne, Texas. Alice would play multiple roles in Greg's little film about the Pilgrims. She played both John Carver and a Pilgrim woman, hilariously mixing up the costumes in the process.
Look at all the friendly Indians.
Cut!
All in the Family was a groundbreaking 70s sitcom that dealt frankly with complicated issues of racism, bigotry, anti-Semitism, homosexuality, religion, and more. It starred Carol O'Connor as Archie Bunker, who rests here at Westwood Village Memorial Park.
Oh, you got any cranberry sauce, little girl?
Oh, yeah, Daddy. Look, I made it myself.
Oh, you got none of the real kind that slides out of the can?
During a Thanksgiving gathering in 1975, the religious Archie and the atheist Michael, played by Rob Reiner, nearly come to blows over Michael and Gloria's decision to raise their child without religion and allow him to make his own decisions when he's old enough to do so. Sanford and Son was one of the most hilarious shows on television in the 70s, which brings us to Palm Memorial in Las Vegas and the grave of its star, Red Fox. While they never did a Thanksgiving-specific episode, in the Season 4 episode The Stand-In, Fred did make a Thanksgiving dinner for his friend who was coming into town for a visit.
No, stop kidding around. I mean, look at the table. Candied sweet potatoes, cranberry sauce, dressing, and a big turkey. Now guess.
The Pilgrims are coming.
Red Fox died from a heart attack in 1991. At first, no one suspected anything was wrong, because one of Fox's most famous and long-running gags was to fake a heart attack. Funny man Bob Newhart had not one but two shows in this era. The Bob Newhart Show in the 70s, followed by Newhart in the 80s. Both were immensely popular, and the finale of the second actually tied back into the first in one of the most memorable finales in TV history. Bob celebrated Thanksgiving a couple of times on both shows.
Honey, I'm glad you always get so excited about Thanksgiving. It's a little weird, but I'm glad.
Joanna, it's only the best holiday of the year. As soon as you wake up, there's a major parade featuring the best in cartoon balloons, which ends just in time for my favorite football game of the year. Then all eyes are riveted on me as I slice into a succulent 18-pounder with these beauties.
Bob Newhart rests here at Forest Lawn in the Hollywood Hills. This is El Toro Memorial Park in Lake Forest, California. WKRP in Cincinnati was a television sitcom about the misadventures of the staff of a radio station in Cincinnati. Gordon Jump played Arthur Carlson, the general manager of the radio station. In the Season 1 episode Turkeys Away, which aired in 1978, Carlson decides to launch his own Thanksgiving Day promotion, with disastrous results. What came out of it was one of the all-time great, if not the greatest, Turkey Day punchlines in television history.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Cheers was a bar where everybody knows your name, and the name shouted out every time one of the most popular characters entered the bar was... The beloved barfly with his designated stool on the corner was played by George Wendt. When Thanksgiving of 1986 was approaching, none of the gang seemed to be able to formalize their plans, so they decided to spend Thanksgiving together. For the potluck dinner, Norm was in charge of the turkey.
Look, I'm sorry, guys. The little pop thing won't pop out. There's something wrong with it.
Something wrong with you.
No, it's a little pop thing.
As tensions rose, the scene would eventually devolve into a full-on Thanksgiving food fight.
Sam Malone, kiss your butt goodbye.
George passed away in May 2025 and was reportedly laid to rest in the family plot here in St. Mary Catholic Cemetery outside of Chicago. The following year, Full House would celebrate their first Thanksgiving without Pam, Danny's wife. Full House was a popular sitcom in the 80s and 90s about a recently widowed man trying to raise his kids with the help of his brother-in-law and friend. We're at Mount Sinai Memorial Park in Los Angeles to remember one of TV's favorite dads, the man who played Danny Tanner on Full House, Bob Saget. Danny and the gang do their best to put on their first Thanksgiving, though the turkey came out a bit overcooked.
Carve the turkey, Dad.
My pleasure. Okay, who wants white meat?
I do. I want some.
Scratch the white meat. We have dark meat and really dark meat.
There once was a man named Worrell, Ernest P. Worrell, played by talented actor and funny man Jim Varney. On the big screen in the 80s and 90s, Ernest saved Christmas and was scared stupid. But it was on the small screen that Ernest would celebrate Thanksgiving during his TV show, Hey Vern, It's Ernest, in 1988.
Happy Thanksgiving, Vern. Belly up to the table. We've only got 12 minutes before Christmas. Look, Vern, I've got everything you need for a big Thanksgiving feast. Got your dressing and cranberry sauce and green beans and a double juicy turkey. And Vern, I'm thankful for all of it. Know what I mean? Shall I carve? What'll it be, Vern? Light or dark?
Jim died tragically young from lung cancer at just 50 and rests here at the Lexington Cemetery in Kentucky. Let's have a low-fat 90s Thanksgiving now with the cast of Everybody Loves Raymond. The matriarch of the family was Marie, played by Doris Roberts. We find her niche here at Westwood Village Memorial Park, just feet from another famous TV matriarch, Florence Henderson. In the 1998 episode No Fat, Marie is on a diet, and the whole family must therefore suffer. Ta-da! Instead of succulent, juicy turkey, Marie serves a tofu turkey on Thanksgiving.
How about that, huh? Look how it jiggles.
To find the patriarch of the family, we head across the country to East Hampton, New York, and Green River Cemetery. Peter Boyle played Frank on Everybody Loves Raymond. In the Thanksgiving episode, he knows he has to eat better for his health, but he is not the least bit on board with replacing a real turkey with a tofu turkey.
May I have my carving knife, please?
Thank you, Frank.
I want to slit my throat.
You'll also remember Peter Boyle as the monster on Young Frankenstein. We are back at Forest Lawn in the Hollywood Hills. John Ritter was the lead male character in two popular sitcoms, one in the 70s and 80s, another in the early 2000s. On Three's Company, John played Jack, a chef, and while he did cook a roast turkey in an episode, it wasn't a Thanksgiving episode. In the early 2000s, John starred in another sitcom, 8 Simple Rules. In episode 11 of the first season, the family celebrates Thanksgiving together.
Do I detect gratitude? What do you know? And on Thanksgiving yet? You know what I'm thankful for?
Mom, Dad! What are you doing here? Nana! Grandpa!
Tragically, John would pass away less than a year after this episode aired from an aortic dissection at just 54. His death was addressed on the show, which had his character die off-screen early in the second season, rather than recasting him. The day after 8 Simple Rules aired their Thanksgiving episode, legendary funny man Bernie Mac aired his uniquely memorable and hilarious Turkey Day tribute, titled Tripto Fantasy. That brings us to Washington Memory Gardens outside of Chicago, where Bernie Mac is entombed. Bernie Mac began his career as a stand-up comedian, then landed his own show in 2001.
Hey, you see, Thanksgiving's a time for sharing and a time for family. But most importantly, it's a time for turkey. That's right. And Bernie Mac is what you call a turcophile. From the Greek, that's a lover of flightless birds.
On this fateful Thanksgiving Day, through a series of mishaps, Bernie eats an undercooked turkey. He becomes delirious and starts to hallucinate in true Rankin Bass holiday stop-motion style.
Shh, Now be very, very quiet. I'm hunting jive turkey. Where's that jive turkey? Yeah.
Bernie Mac left us far too soon, passing away in 2008 at just 50 from complications of pneumonia. Our friends in the popular sitcom Friends celebrated Thanksgiving quite a few times during their memorable 10-season run in the 90s and 2000s, 10 times to be precise, once per season. That brings us to Forest Lawn in the Hollywood Hills, where Matthew Perry is laid to rest. Matthew played Chandler Bing on Friends. In one of the more memorable episodes, Monica does a dance with a turkey on her head for Chandler, which prompts him to say those 3 little words.
You said you love me. I can't believe this.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
You love me.
No, I don't.
Matthew was just 54 when he died in 2023 from acute effects of ketamine, drowning in his hot tub. As of filming, his crypt remains unmarked. Hollywood loves making Christmas movies and Halloween movies. Thanksgiving movies, not so much. But we're not left completely wanting here in late November. There have been a smattering of Thanksgiving movies made and Thanksgiving scenes in movies to fill our nostalgic bellies this time of year. The first feature film made depicting the 1620 Mayflower crossing was the 1952 film Plymouth Adventure. The Oscar-winning high seas adventure film had a star-studded cast depicting some of the real historical figures from the journey, but fictionalized, of course. Leading the cast and helming the ship was renowned actor Spencer Tracy, whose grave we find in this family garden at Forest Lawn, Glendale. He played Christopher Jones, captain of the Mayflower.
Clear the decks, get below you, fiddle blocks, we're sailing.
Spencer Tracy would win 2 Oscars in his career from 9 nominations. Starring alongside Spencer Tracy in Plymouth Adventure was classic Hollywood beauty Jean Tierney. She plays Dorothy Bradford, also based on a real-life pilgrim, the wife of future Plymouth Colony Governor William Bradford. The movie fictionalizes a love triangle between Captain Jones and the Bradfords, with Jones falling in love with Dorothy.
What makes you think only you can feel? Others have known the hunger you speak of and have lived to tell of it. Yes, and never to tell of it.
The real-life Dorothy Bradford died at just 24 in 1620, shortly after their arrival in the New World, apparently falling from the Mayflower while it was anchored in the harbor and drowning. As for Jean Tierney, she lived to be 70 and rests here at Glenwood Cemetery in Houston, Texas. There aren't a lot of movies that are entirely Thanksgiving themed, but there are a lot of movies that have memorable Thanksgiving scenes in them, like the 1976 film Rocky.
It's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, to you, but to me it's Thursday, right?
In the film, Rocky and Adrian have their first date on Thanksgiving evening. It was arranged by Adrian's brother, Rocky's friend, Polly, played by Burt Young. Adrian is reticent, but Polly insists she go out and have a good time.
Polly, it's Thanksgiving. I got a turkey in the oven.
Oh, a turkey in the oven.
Oh. You want the bird? Go in the alley and eat the bird.
Oh.
Go out and enjoy your freaking life. You hungry, Rock?
Burt Young passed away in 2023 at age 83 and was laid to rest here in the family plot in Mount St. Mary Cemetery in Flushing, New York, though his name does not yet appear on the marker as of filming. Curiously, the character of Polly also has his own fictional grave, which can be found at Laurel Hill Cemetery in Philadelphia, the same cemetery where Sarah Josepha Hale is laid to rest. The grave marker was used as a prop in the movie Creed. In 1986, Woody Allen made a Thanksgiving movie titled Hannah and Her Sisters. It starred Mia Farrow as Hannah. Among the supporting cast of players was Hollywood icon Carrie Fisher. That brings us to Forest Lawn in the Hollywood Hills, where a portion of Carrie's ashes was entombed alongside her mother, Debbie Reynolds. Carrie played April, one of Hannah's sisters in the movie. The movie is bookended by Thanksgiving dinners 2 years apart.
Am I interrupting any sister talk? Oh, good, because there are no interesting single men at this party. I know. Listen, it's terrible. Maybe April would like Phil. Phil Garrett, you know, tall guy in the red. Oh, yeah, I met Phil. He that looks like Ichabod Crane. I love that. That's my type. Not
Like many others we've visited today, Carrie left us far too soon after going into cardiac arrest while aboard a flight from London to Los Angeles. She was 60. Her mother Debbie died the very next day. To cast the mother role in Hannah and her sisters, Woody turned to a classic Hollywood legend, which brings us to Most Holy Redeemer Cemetery in Niskayuna, New York. Here lies Maureen O'Sullivan. Maureen played Norma, an actress, and the mother of Hannah and her sisters in the movie.
Sweetheart, I loved your script. I thought it was so clever. Well, you're my mother. Not everybody's going to be such a sucker. I particularly like the character of the mother. Just a boozy old flirt with a filthy mouth. I'm so proud. Oh, Mom, thanks.
Maureen is also known for playing Jane in the Tarzan films, and she was the real-life mother of Mia Farrow. Our Thanksgiving Day journey takes us now to Oak Lawn Cemetery in Connecticut. Mary Tyler Moore is fondly remembered for playing Laura Petrie on The Dick Van Dyke Show, and going on to star in her own show, The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Her epitaph, after all, is a reference to the theme song of her show. Neither of these shows had a dedicated Thanksgiving episode. But did you know that in 1990, Mary Tyler Moore made a made-for-TV movie called Thanksgiving Day? No? Well, few people do. It's very obscure. Seems the movie had a very limited home video release and has never been made available on streaming. In fact, the only extant public copy seems to be a home video recording of the original TV broadcast in 1990, made available on YouTube courtesy of the Museum of Classic Chicago Television. Watch it for yourself to decide if this one is a hidden gem or just a big turkey.
Thanksgiving's a peaceful time, unless you're Mary Tyler Moore or Tony Curtis. They've got one wild son, a radical daughter,
Recycle.
some uninvited guests, an ex-boyfriend,
What a pig!
and a foreign exchange student.
What have I done to deserve this?
The world premiere Thanksgiving Day, next Monday on NBC.
Whatever the verdict, Mary Tyler Moore is always a ray of sunshine in any role she's in. If it was movie night in November 1995, maybe you and your family went out to see the Thanksgiving film Home for the Holidays, which starred Holly Hunter and Robert Downey Jr. Playing the exacerbated mother and father at this dysfunctional Thanksgiving family gathering were two Hollywood luminaries. The mother, Adele, was played by Anne Bancroft.
Nobody means what they say on Thanksgiving, Mom. You know that. It's what today's supposed to be all about, right? Torture.
I'm giving thanks that we don't have to go through this for another year. Except we do, because those bastards went and put Christmas right in the middle.
Come on. Let's go out and keep eating, okay? It'll all be okay if we just stuff ourselves till we can't even think anymore.
No, it won't.
Anne is also remembered for her role in The Graduate and for her Oscar-winning performance in The Miracle Worker. Anne was married to funny man Mel Brooks. She died from cancer at age 73 and rests here at Kensico Cemetery in New York. To find the patriarch of Home for the Holidays, let's turn the compass south to our national cemetery, Arlington. This is where veterans and their families are laid to rest. Among them rests Charles Durning, an actor who carved a distinct niche for himself, playing gruff and surly characters in films like The Muppet Movie and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Charles played Henry in Home for the Holidays. The tagline for the film was, "On the fourth Thursday in November, 84 million American families will gather together and wonder why."
As I was saying, dear Lord, before my wife interrupted me, even those old-fashioned pain-in-the-ass traditions like Thanksgiving, which really means something to us, even though, goddammit, we couldn't tell you what it is, are starting to stop.
To reach the end of the line on our journey today, to make it home for Thanksgiving just as the turkey popper pops, We'll have to take planes, trains, and automobiles. This winter landscape comes to us from Lake Forest Cemetery in Illinois. Here we find the grave of John Hughes. The beloved filmmaker was known for his comedies and holiday movies in the 80s and 90s, films like The Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. As a writer, he gave us several Christmas staples like Home Alone and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. He would also write and direct what is perhaps the quintessential Thanksgiving comedy film, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in 1987. It embodies the heart and soul of Thanksgiving without actually showing a Thanksgiving dinner.
I was on my way home to spend a nice holiday with my family. Instead, I'm in a motel bed with a stranger.
So instead of Thanksgiving with his family, he's spending 3 days with the turkey. In a new film by John Hughes.
John died suddenly from a heart attack at age 59. Let's end our journey today in the warm halls of the mausoleum at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California. The best time to visit this mausoleum is in the autumn, late afternoon, when the sun is low on the horizon and shining directly through the stained glass, lighting the halls and crypts in a blaze of color. In room 7, we turn our eyes up to find the crypt of Canadian funny man, John Candy. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles starred the brilliant comedic partnership of Steve Martin and John Candy. Steve played Neil, a businessman struggling to get home in time for Thanksgiving. John played his bumbling but lovable and inadvertent travel companion, Del Griffith. The two hit every roadblock imaginable on the journey home, many self-inflicted, but in the end form an unlikely bond through their tribulations.
Happy holidays.
Happy Thanksgiving, Neil.
Okay.
Give my love to the family, will you?
Same to you.
Maybe I'll get a chance to meet him one day.
Okay. And you have a happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, you know it.
So long.
John died suddenly from a heart attack at just 43 while filming Wagons East in Mexico. We miss John dearly, but he left us with a legacy of laughter that keeps him alive in our hearts, and that's something we can all be thankful for, especially this time of year. And that concludes our Turkey Day Tombstone Tour. I hope you enjoyed this selection of Thanksgiving victuals, and that you're full to the brim with equal portions of history, entertainment, and pumpkin pie. Let us know in the comments what some of your favorite Thanksgiving memories are. And as we wrap up our time today, I wanted to take a moment to share what I'm grateful for this holiday season. I'm grateful for you, for all of you, who watch these videos, share them, like them, and continue to support Hollywood Graveyard. Thank you. What is this?